Shalom and welcome to our Purim special. As you know, Purim is all about creativity and imagination. And today we're going to take Hebrew words that dress up beautifully in English and create costumes in our minds to help us remember these words and their meaning in Hebrew. They are completely different in meaning, but they sound very similar. If you don't know me, my name is Inbal from Hebrew by Inbal, and I help English speakers learn and love Hebrew. Check out my free guides, my best-selling workbooks, and much more on my website, HebrewByInbal.com. It's also in the description. I gathered for you words in Hebrew that sound really similar to identical to words in English that have a totally different meaning. I used all my creativity and all my imagination to use my associations for each word to help you remember them better. But feel free to add your own in the comments below and help your fellow Hebrew learners remember these words. Our first word is iti, which means slow in Hebrew. Can you guess what English word it sounds like? Iti? That's right, iti. Imagine iti walking really slowly, taking his time to explore and discover new things on earth. That's how you can remember iti in Hebrew. E-T. E-T is slow. As always, I use my PSP, my phonetic system for pronunciation, to write each word in English letters, transliterated, as well as in Hebrew and in English. So if you're not familiar or using my PSP, click here to watch my 3 PSP videos that will transform your Hebrew studies. Now let's talk about the word guf. Guf in Hebrew means body. And in English, we know what a goof is, someone being very goofy. So if you want to show off your Hebrew skills, imagine someone dancing really like a goof, moving their body in a goofy way, being a goof. Their body is guf in Hebrew. Gam is the Hebrew word for also or as well. Gam. So if you want to say also in Hebrew, picture someone chewing gum while also doing other things. Chewing gum and also talking, laughing, playing, trying to make bubbles. Also, gam in Hebrew. Dag is the Hebrew word for fish, and it really sounds like someone who dug something. So if we want to remember how to say the word fish in Hebrew, let's imagine a guy, we can call him Doug, by the way, who dug and dug and dug until water came out. And as the water was flowing day after day after day, at some point he actually saw a fish. So he dug and dug until the fish arrived. Fish in Hebrew is dag. Moving on to something that is kind of tricky, but we're going to play with it. In Hebrew, the word for she is he. And as we know very well in English, he refers to exactly the same thing, only in masculine. So he in Hebrew means she. To remember this confusing thing, think about someone who is all dressed up in a costume. We assume that it's a he when actually it's a she inside the costume. So he in English is she in Hebrew. Staying on the same topic, in Hebrew, the word who means he or him. In English, we can ask who. So imagine a group of runners, and we're thinking, who will win out of this group of men running? Whatever our answer is, it will be him. He will win. Who in Hebrew. Yum is sea in Hebrew. Yum. Just like we use in English for something that is really tasty and really yummy. So if you want to remember the word sea in Hebrew, imagine yourself sitting on a beach, watching the ocean, eating something like a very yummy watermelon. It is yum, just like the ocean, the sea that you're looking at. Moving on to the basic word of yes. Yes in Hebrew is ken. So if we want to remember how to say yes in Hebrew, which is ken, we can imagine Barbies, ken, And imagine that being married to Barbie and her being Barbie, Ken says yes to everything. Ken is yes in Hebrew. And what about lo? Lo in Hebrew, because we don't have a lo, it's lo. It really sounds like law in English. So we can think about something that is not allowed by law, which means it is a no. It is lo. Not allowed by law is lo in Hebrew. Our next word is actually a question. Lama. Lama in Hebrew is why. And in English, and actually in Hebrew as well, we have the animal, lama. So if we want to remember how to ask why in Hebrew, we can always think of the question, why is the llama so important in Peru? We don't need to answer it. We just need to think about the question. Whenever we think about llama, why is the llama so important in Peru? Why? Llama? That's how we ask why in Hebrew. Moving on to another question in Hebrew, which is who? Who in Hebrew is me, and me in English is me, I. So a good way to remember it is always to think about the question, who? Me? Who in Hebrew is me. Who? Me? And then we have the word city. City in Hebrew is ir, which sounds exactly like ear, ir. So if we want to remember how to say the word city in Hebrew, we can think about a city and how noisy it is, which means that it can be too much for our ear, which is why so many people in the city use an earpiece or an earphone. Ear, city in Hebrew. And then we have kar. Kar in Hebrew is cold. So we can think of a cold weather and how cold will it be to be in our car in this weather. The car is very cold in such a weather. Cold is kar in Hebrew. Moving on to the Hebrew word that means of. Of in Hebrew is shell, just like the shell of a turtle. The turtle's shell belongs to the turtle. And in Hebrew, the word shell refers to something that belongs to something. It is of. It is the shell of the turtle. It belongs to him. It is his house. And lastly, we have the Hebrew word for fruit, which is pri, sounding really, really similar to the English word of pre. To remember this one, I think of a cute preschooler that is eating his fruit, because that's what we want to feed our preschoolers, healthy fruit. So preschooler eating pri, which is fruit in Hebrew. Thanks for joining me on this Purim special. I hope you had fun and learned something new. If you did, please like and share this video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is a perfect time to do that. Click the bell if you want to get notified every time I post a new video, which is every Sunday. Click here to watch the perfect video right after this one. Chag Purim Sameach.